So there was some big news this week. Pure Storage announced a new product, FlashBlade. FlashBlade confused a lot of people because they couldn't figure out exactly what it was. It is effectively a scalable all-flash object store. And so far, I've heard a lot of confusion about whether this is a product, whether this is something that the industry needs, whether it's not. Rather than focusing specifically on that product, though, what I'd like to do is go a little broader and ask, is this a new market niche? Do we need high-performance object storage, high-performance cloud storage, as well as, high-performance block and so on? So, Enrico, why don't you start us off with that discussion?
Yeah, of course. For me, the short answer is yes. I don't know if it's today, but we have high-performance NAS, for example, and some of these NAS systems are really huge today and are really high performance. So why not object storage? New developers are all really interested in S3 REST APIs in general. So for them, it's not just thinking about object storage like Amazon S3, so where you have latency, you have a lot of problems. But when you have S3 implemented in your enterprise on premises, and you have a bunch of servers accessing it, why don't have it fast? That's my question. Mm-hmm. So there are some applications, not all applications, of course, but if you have to manage a huge amount of small files, for example, why not have object storage?
Yeah, and that's kind of where it went when I was having this conversation with some of those folks was that old term, unstructured data. They said, why does unstructured data have to be slow? Why can't it be on a high-performance system? And if it is on a high-performance system, does that open up new applications that can use that data, that can access that data?
I think the question is, it's not, I think you asked why can't it be, the question is why should it be, right? And I don't know if, typically object storage systems are a target for unstructured data that is kind of second tier historically, or I don't know if we can say if it's been out that long. The question is, was it that way because an object storage way of storing things is just inherently slow?
Okay. So look at this. You have a web application, classic web application, mm-hmm. and you have files in your directory, okay? But if you can access that files through S3, it's the same, right? So your web server can serve files from an object store. Look at big service provider. I'm not talking about large petabyte size buckets. I am talking about very small buckets to serve very well small web instances.
So are you talking about something like all the photos for all the products to support Amazon?
No, I'm talking about, so look at, for example, DigitalOcean, no? They have these very small instances, 5 gigabyte of flash, okay? Mm-hmm. And you can run your web server, your web application, okay? There are some templates and you build it. They don't have an object store today. Why don't build it on an object store? Because they are not huge applications. They are small applications, but then when you develop on that environment, I think that the easiest way to do it is to do via object store, because if you go into DigitalOcean forums, probably not all, but the first topic in the forum is why don't you have an object store? Okay.
Yeah, but is that really, why don't I have an object store that is very high performance, very low latency, consistent low latency, or is that, why don't I have an object store because you charge too much for what I have, and if I was on some other platform where they had an object store, it would be cheaper?
No, if you look at the thread in the forum, they're asking object store, like S3 APIs.
Right, but...
Okay, they don't, I think most of the end users of that service in particular are developers, so I don't even know if they have all the concept of the backend storage that they...
Yeah, but I mean, I look at why we came up with object stores, and it's because file systems couldn't support the scale.
Yeah, but now
And-
S3 is adopted for any kind of installation. So a few months ago, I met a company that builds a single instance object store. So not distributed, nothing. It's just pure S3 and runs into a single virtual machine. And so think about that as a very small for developers, for small application, embedded applications, whatever. They are using S3 as a protocol.
Sure, but if they're doing that, how quick does it really need to be? Right.
If
Well,
you're using
I
it
think
as your primary storage,
No, I think where Enrico's going is the youngins want to use S3 for everything, and therefore the demand will develop to support those applications.
And I think it will, because like you said, Howard, object got developed because past a certain point a file system breaks. And it confuses people sometimes with object storage because most of the objects are actually files that most people use. But right now, most applications talk either raw disk, it's a block storage, or they talk files. There aren't a lot of objects that there aren't a lot of applications that speak object protocol yet.
So
I think
it's a
this is
chicken and egg problem?
It's going to be there. I think it's a case, the high-speed object storage is really a case of if you build it, they will come. Nobody's going to develop applications that write to object that have high performance requirements until that platform exists.
Well, but
So I think this is them being future ready.
The other piece,
The world is moving towards an object.
I think the other piece that would help object store adoption is applying common front ends to existing object stores. I mean, there are vendors on the market that have added SMB and NFS front ends to the object store so that they can consume it just like they do their enterprise storage today.
Yeah, but
But that,
Not necessarily related to performance as well. That's
Well,
ease of use. So if you
It's both, yeah. I mean, I think not
that's
necessarily
trying to
performance.
address the problem that Martin Glassboro had, where his use case with petabytes of video
Right.
is perfect for an object store, but his developers refuse to write to anything but POSIX. I think that's a solution to a different problem.
Yeah.
My problem with really high is how much of the high-speed NAS applications can deal with immutability. How many of those applications that are on high-speed NAS are, the equivalent of an Access database,
Okay, think
where they're
about-
doing a lot of small changes within a file.
think about genome or whatever, okay? So you need it immutable because you're,
Right, and big files.
yeah, and DNA doesn't change, but if you, it's 1 terabyte, okay, theoretically,
The files don't change.
the file doesn't change, okay, but if you need
Because I
to
could be
retrieve
bitten
that
by a
file,
radioactive
it's
spider.
1 terabyte file, so you need it fast.
Yeah.
but to go back, it's the whole NFS SMB thing. I don't disagree that this may be something that happens in the future, but we're still writing NFS
That's where I was
and
trying to
SMB interfaces
get to.
for the object stores we have, right? Because none of the apps know how to talk objects. So now we have yet another box that has an interface that no apps
Well,
know
it's
how to
not
write to.
yet another box. If you look at the...
It's a yet another really awesome box, but
No. This is not the point. So, if you look at the industry today, look at the Pure Storage. Okay, they have block access flash array. Okay, which is a flash array in the sense that it's the name of the product, but it's all flash. And now that you have a scale out NAS and object store. So it's a kind of unified system of the future. So you have S3, SMB, NFS from a single box. It's not that you are using. So I can expect that the next version of SolidFire will have object store protocols and NFS probably because
for a tick box.
think about you are a service provider, okay? So if someone comes to you and says, okay, you can have NFS, or on the same system you can have NFS, SMB, and object store.
I'd ask if you could multi-tenant. That's not fine.
No. Yeah, okay. And multi-tenancy or and quality of service. So it's not just NFS. NFS is cool, but it's not enough. While you are using objects at the end of the day. So they are files, but they are, change the point of view, no?
Yeah,
Because of the protocol.
I would take, so those inbound customers are going to come in a number of different buckets in terms of use cases, if you pardon the pun. But some of them are going to come in and they're going to say, I just want object store because it's nice and easy to consume, and I'm used to developing on that. And then other ones are going to say, right, well, I want object store, but I also want it to be really quick. Now, where are the use cases? And my question would be, if they just want it to be quick, and if it's a web-based application, then actually trying to do high-speed object store as a web application, you're doing it wrong in the first place. You should be doing other things like CDNs and so forth to cache it at the front end. But if you took an example, I think you talked about like photos and things like that. So one example would be you've got Amazon with a whole load of static objects that never changes, and everybody always hits those exact same objects. Well, then the CDN is perfect for that.
Yeah, but
if you've got a photo site like a photo box or something, every customer is only going to hit every object once, then actually that is the use case where a high-speed object storage actually becomes pretty handy.
This is what I like about the Pure product.
Think about your multi-tenant environment. Okay, you have many developers, and 99.99% of them are developing very small applications for their organization, and they want them fast. Mm-hmm. So they are buying very small virtual machines, 10, 20 virtual machines, and they're buying a very small S3 compatible instance or a tenant or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what they need, probably less than 100 gigabytes, but they want it fast. Also because they are not that as good as writing code as they should be, no? Right? So no, that's the reality. So you have the guy learned how to write some code, but at the end, are you sure that he's good enough to implement all the layers?
Well, so here's what I like about the Pure Storage product. It's not just a high-speed object. It's also going to be a high-speed NAS. So I've got a lot of life science customers, and they're looking into object storage because what they're trying to create is these data banks of genomes. They do all the sequencing. They want them to be able to be used for cancer research. They want to provide them to their clients so that people can do this research. So they have access to this huge database of gene sequences. So they've broken the file systems they have for the number of genomes they want to be able to have available. They want to have historical data getting back. They want to have the next generations, everybody on the planet maybe, so we can figure things out. You can't do that in a file system. But the sequencer machines are either running Windows or Linux. So to ingest that data, they're already going to talk either SMB or NFS natively, the machines that they're taking the information in from. So if I can take that information in through SMB or NFS, but store it and then later present it in an object format where I can have that rich metadata so that I can look everything up, and I can never have to do that tree walk across, let's say we did sequence everyone on the planet. If I had to do a tree walk through 7 billion files to find what I'm looking for or catalog what's actually there, the system's going to fall over and die, and I'm going to die of old age while they're waiting to find my records.
Also, again, NFS and SMB are local protocols. S3 is HTTP. So for sharing information, S3 is much better.
But that points out that part of why S3 was developed was to be much more latency comfortable, because you were going from local to the cloud than SMB and NFS, which being chatty, hate latency.
Sure, but we've pivoted since then, right? We have a new age of developers who are trying to do something different than historically people have done.
Yeah, the youngins hate anything old.
Right, and it's not wrong, it's just what they're doing now.
And I think that's really the summary, and I think that's the answer to this whole question. The developers and the applications are going to dictate whether this thing makes any sense or not, and they are absolutely going to API-driven storage. Not for everything, like you're pointing out. I mean, you have database-driven storage, or databases serving up a lot of web apps, but web apps do have unstructured data, blobs of data. They need some place to put it, and they're putting it in an object store. To say that it's going to be something, that some other protocol. I mean, can you imagine the hilarity if you went out there and told all these web apps developers that they should write to block storage with SCSI protocol? I mean, that's just not going to happen. It's hilarious. It's a joke. Yes, object storage is going to win, And I think it's pretty likely that they're going to need some performance systems as well, and not just have systems that are on the other end of the internet, even though that's what it was intended for. That's what it was created for.